Working your brain is like working a muscle. You cannot do crunches today and expect to have abs tomorrow. I don't know why I'm getting emotional. I thought I'd be okay to talk about it, and I am. Hello guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Taylor. If you're new here, please make sure to hit the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. And today's video is one that I've been wanting to film for quite some time now, but I just wasn't ready to talk about it. Every time I talked about it, I would cry, which means that I was not healed from it. But now I feel like I can talk about it and not get too emotional. I've kind of gotten myself out of that dark place that I was in, and so now I am ready to talk about it. So today's video is going to be about my mental health journey over the past year, and the reason that I want to make this video at all is just because when I was going through it, I felt so alone and also ashamed. And if any of you watching are going through anything, just know you're not alone and it's nothing to be ashamed about. And so that's why I'm making this video. I just hope that if anyone watching is going through something similar to what I was, that this might help, or at least to make you feel like you're not alone in your struggles. Also, I want to make a quick disclaimer that I know mental illness and struggles are different for everyone. There are definitely more extreme or severe cases than what I've experienced, but I'm just speaking from my own personal experience. I'm not here to tell you what to do. I am privileged to be living where I live and have access to free help, and I know that's not the case for everybody. Just speaking about my own experience and how I kind of got myself out of that situation, and it's not going to work for everybody. No two people are the same, but again, just sharing my story. This past year for me has been so wild. I'm gonna give you a little bit of a backstory just so you can kind of understand how I got to where I got last year. But I'm obviously not gonna tell you every single detail due to privacy reasons for myself and also the people involved. So when I was in grade 12, I was about to graduate, my mom got hurt at work. She got hit on the head and then suffered from post-concussion syndrome. She wasn't properly compensated and she had to continue working even though she was in extreme pain every day. And that was extremely hard for me to watch. I'm really close with my mom, and no one wants to see their mom in pain, but she was doing what she had to do because I was about to be a full-time university student. But luckily my grandma, who we were also very close with, had no problem helping us out with groceries or anything extra that we needed at the time so that I could be a full-time university student. I had received the entrance scholarship to go to school, so I didn't really want to give that up at the time, and my mom didn't want me to either. So when I turned 18, I was dating a guy for almost a year, and then I ended up finding out that he was married and had a child and also a baby on the way. So obviously I'm not going to get into details. That's a whole other video. If you guys are interested in that story, I am more than happy to tell it from my perspective. But there were so many things that happened in that situation. The whole family got involved and they kind of rang me out on social media, which was really rough for me at 18 years old. Like, obviously, you know, at 18, 19, I'm not gonna go after some married dude. Like, I can get any guy that I want. I just turned 18, you know? So I think I was just wrongly depicted in that story, and it was very emotional. And so that caused, I think, the first time that I started feeling anxiety or feeling like I wasn't good enough. Fast forward after that, I met Glenn, who's my current boyfriend. We were really good friends for a full year. I didn't really want to get into a relationship at the time because I was busy focusing on my career, on school. I had 2 jobs, so I was working, serving at a restaurant, and then I was also working at a tanning salon while going to school full-time, while also taking on this paid internship at a school because I was in university to become a teacher. I was also dancing competitively. I was really busy, and I, at the time, enjoyed being busy. I didn't feel too burnt out. I was young and I just wanted to make money, and I just wanted to get my mind off of everything that had happened. And then I got into 2 car accidents, which caused me to stop dancing and to stop serving, which is where I made most of my money because I made a lot in tips. I worked in a lounge. I was waking up every single day with extreme chronic neck and back pain, and you know, obviously I'm aware that I'm lucky I even survived car accidents and that I'm still able to walk, and it could have been a lot worse. But that being said, I was still in a lot of pain, and it really did change my way of living. I was just exhausted, waking up every day in extreme pain to the point that I find it hard to get out of bed or hard to be on my feet for 30 minutes was really tough for me. Also, because of all these responsibilities and me not being able to make as much money as I was before, I had to change my lifestyle, and I was so focused on everyone around me. I was focused on how my friends my age were, you know, living at home, not having to pay for anything, and getting to travel and finishing their degree on time and all of these things, getting to go shopping when they want, getting to go out to eat and drink when they want. And I was a little bit more limited. And of course, I know I'm still privileged, but I was comparing myself to the people around me, and I found it really hard. I just felt like I wasn't doing what I should be doing in my early 20s. I was working 60 hours a week, trying to take full-time university courses in the evenings, online, and I still felt that no matter how hard I worked and how many long hours I worked, I still wasn't making enough money and I still wasn't doing enough. But again, my grandma was still helping us out, and at this point, my mom had stopped working because she was just in so much pain and it just wasn't worth it anymore, still not being properly compensated. So I ended up having to take a lot of responsibility with my grandma to take care of things while I was still going to school. And that car accident just really kind of set it off for me. I started getting in this negative mindset from like, oh my god, why me? Like this was not supposed to happen. I just bought a car. I just didn't want to accept that my financial stability was kind of faltering a little bit. So later on, Glenn and I started dating. Everything was great, total honeymoon stage. We're still great, but everything kind of started to look up for me a little bit. I was still in university, and then my grandma passed away, which was really hard for me because I've never experienced death really. I've never lost anyone close to me, and I was extremely close with my grandma. My mom and I saw her like nearly every day. My mom saw her every day. She was already in a nursing home, so that was already pretty rough for us. When she passed, I think I kind of just lost it. Since I had such a great partner and I had amazing friends, I finally was at a point where I was like, you know what? I'm tired of being strong and I'm gonna let these people be here for me. And they were, and it was amazing, and they had no problem being there for me. I was not a burden to them, but I think I kind of ended up taking it to an extreme, to the point where I didn't know how to cheer myself up anymore. I depended fully on my partner and also my friends to cheer me up all the time because I was just done trying to figure it out myself. I wanted to finally not be the strong one and just be taken care of for a bit. So after dealing with that, I developed this crazy anxiety where I was constantly paranoid that I was gonna lose anyone close to me. I was terrified that my mom was gonna die. I got scared every single time Glenn left to drive home, because now on top of this anxiety, I was also thinking about the fact that I had been in 2 car accidents, and so anytime I left my friends or they left my place, I was terrified that I or them were gonna get in a car accident. Every single time before I would say bye to people, I would tell them why I love them, and obviously that's a good way to think in terms of like, you should always tell people how you feel, and you know, you never know when your last moment's gonna be your last moment, so you should always express how you feel. But I took it to a total extreme. On top of that, since my grandma was the one helping my mom and I financially a lot, I had to finish that year of university, and then I decided to stretch my degree. So I was supposed to finish it in about 5 or 6 years, and I ended up having to stretch it to about 8-9 years to finish my degree because I couldn't afford to pay for full-time tuition, not work during the school year, and try and pay for all these bills now. And so I was feeling so bad for myself, and I was looking around at all of my classmates who were now moving on year by year and doing what I was supposed to be doing, and I felt so ready to graduate. I had all the experience, I had the passion, I had the motivation, and yet all these people were surpassing me because of my circumstances. Obviously now I know that I should never compare myself to anybody because everyone's on their own path, and I know now that good things are gonna happen, and I just can't compare myself to different people in different circumstances on different paths. But at the time, that wasn't my thought process at all. And so I ended up just getting into such a negative mindset, and because I was allowing people to be there for me, which I hadn't really done in the past, I started viewing myself as weak. I started losing my perception of myself as a strong, independent woman, and I just totally lost my confidence. I lost motivation to work out. I wasn't eating the best, and you know, I used to dance, so I was so fit, and I would go to the gym all the time, and I was serving, so I was active at my job, and then all of a sudden I couldn't do that anymore. So I was gaining weight, which, not to say that I was big or anything, but it was just not the body type, and I wasn't as strong as I used to be, and that was really hard for me. I was paranoid that my friends and Glenn were hanging out with me because they felt bad. I was so scared that I didn't bring any value to the table anymore and that I was draining the people around me. It got to a point where I would wake up every day and think, oh my God, I don't want to do this. I didn't even allow myself to have a positive day, because every time I woke up, I just kept thinking, my life is so unfair. I'm not a good friend. I'm not a good girlfriend. I don't see a point in doing this anymore. And I started losing motivation with school because I just felt like I was so behind. My self-confidence issues started to reflect in my relationship. As a partner or a friend, trying to support someone who has a mental illness or who is going through something really hard, it's hard on everybody involved. I definitely know for sure that I wasn't the only one hurting. It was obviously hard to be around someone who is so sad and so negative and going through all these motions, because how do you really fix someone, and how do you be there for someone who's going through all these things? And I just kept looking to these people to fix my situation, to get me out of here. Like, I didn't know what to do. There were days where I literally could not get out of bed. I would sleep all day, not go to work, and I would wake up and half get ready before Glenn came over after work every day, just to make him think that I had been out of the house. And that went on for weeks. He didn't know. I was just scared to tell him, because here we were, you know, planning to move out together in a year. We're supposed to be saving up together, and yet I'm not at work because I feel so anxious to go there. I feel so sad. I don't have the energy to put on a brave face, and then I'm scared to tell him because now I'm not saving as much money. I'm not even working. And then eventually, obviously, I told him, and he was supportive, but of course he was concerned. Things just got really bad really quickly. So last year, in I think near the end of October, I just felt like I could not do it anymore, and so I actually tried to end my life, which is so crazy to think about now. Oh gosh, am I actually gonna get emotional? I really didn't think I was gonna get emotional during this video, but I don't even know for sure if I necessarily didn't want to live anymore. I think I just wanted the pain to stop, but I didn't know how else to do it. And so luckily I ended up calling my best friend Isa, and she ended up taking me to the hospital. And when we got to the emergency room, they took me in right away, so I kind of knew it was serious, because normally where I live, in waiting rooms at the emergency, you have to wait hours and hours to be seen, and that was not the case. As they were taking me in, I overheard the doctor say to Isa, if you had gotten here 10 minutes later, like, she probably wouldn't have made it. So I think that was definitely the lowest point that I had ever been in my whole entire life. I'm so glad that Isa took me there and that she stayed, and it was just really rough. So my family ended up coming, my parents, my aunt, Glenn, of course, and you know, they were there for me throughout that whole thing. And I just remember laying in that hospital bed thinking, I'm so lucky. And I felt, I don't know why I'm getting emotional. I thought I'd be okay to talk about it, and I am, but I guess this is the first time that I'm like fully re-explaining the story. Okay, that experience in the hospital for me was just really mind-opening, because I just realized how much I was loved, and you know, what an impact it would have been if I wasn't here anymore. And prior to being in the hospital, I had this obsessive thought, like, who would come to my funeral? What would they say? Would people care? Would people notice? And of course they would. And at that point, I just felt so bad for putting my friends and family through that. None of them obviously made me feel bad or wanted me to feel guilty, but of course that's what I felt. And so going home after that, I had 6 weeks off work, and I basically slept all day. And you know, my friends and Glenn were really there for me. I talked on the phone with Casey every day. Isa was over all the time. Danilo talked to me every day. Glenn was over every single day. My parents were really there for me. And after that, it was a struggle. I went through a very long and hard year, and I ended up going to therapy. And therapy is honestly so important. That was the first time that I had ever been told by a stranger that everything that I've gone through, and I haven't mentioned all of them in this video and I'm not going to, but the therapist said to me during my first visit, everything that I've gone through is really a huge deal and it's very traumatic, and I never fully dealt with it. I think I kind of bottled everything up, or I just convinced myself, you know what, it's not a big deal, like you can handle this and get your shit together. I also remember during my first therapy session, the therapist was super nice, and she said, you know, your problems are like a skyscraper. They're massive and tall when you're standing next to them, but the further away that you walk from them, the smaller that skyscraper gets. And it'll never disappear, it's always going to be there, but it's going to be really, really small the further you are away from it. And I've kind of held on to that throughout this whole entire year, and I probably always will, because it's so true. Your problems, you can never undo them, but it's walking away and letting them not control your life and not be such a presence in your everyday life. I'm not going to say that therapy is what fully fixed me, but it definitely gave me a lot of coping mechanisms and validation in how I was feeling, and also just a safe space to tell someone what I was going through without a biased opinion or advice necessarily. It was more so, again, coping mechanisms. I can't stress that enough, how important therapy is. It really is just as important as taking care of your physical health of a doctor. If you are feeling stressed, there's nothing to be ashamed of. Go speak to someone. Even if you're not at the point that I was, it's just good to take care of your mental health. After that, fast forward like a few months, I think the turning point was, as much as my friends were there for me and I had a lot of great support, I think the turning point in my life this past year was when I decided that I needed to change, and I decided that I didn't want to be sad anymore, and I didn't want to feel anxious anymore, and I didn't want to feel sorry for myself, and I just wanted to be happy and successful, whatever successful really means. And so I decided to change my life. I did a lot of soul searching to figure out how to cheer myself up and get myself out of a negative mindset without having to lean on other people. And I'm not saying that I didn't need those people, or that, you know, you shouldn't ask for help, because of course you should, and of course it's great to have a support system, but you need to also learn how to take care of yourself. And so I spent this last 6 to 8 months learning how to calm myself down, learning what makes me happy. So for me, that's working out, going for a walk outside, reading a good book with a cup of tea and a cozy blanket. Creating on YouTube has really been a good creative outlet for me. Keeping my space clean, I think, really helps me as well. And I can also now talk myself out of a negative mindset. So every morning when I wake up, instead of thinking of the negative things or the bad things that have happened to me, I think every morning of 3 things that I'm grateful for. And I don't even necessarily say them out loud. This is just for me, and I don't even think I've told Glenn this before, but every single morning now when I wake up, I think of 3 things I'm grateful for. And so if I'm having a bad day, those 3 things might be, I'm breathing, I can walk, and I have a roof over my head. It can be as simple as that, and of course those are big things, and some people don't even have those basic things that I take for granted every day. Of course, it's not that I don't have negative thoughts, and it's not that I, you know, don't get in a bad mood. I think that was also a struggle for me lately, was, you know, I finally reached a point where I felt happy, and so if there was a day or a moment that I didn't feel happy, I would beat myself up over it. But in reality, no one is ever happy 24/7. You cannot smile 100% of the time. It's just not real life. And so that's another thing that I had to learn, was learning to be with my emotions, but not let it consume my entire day. When I experience something negative, or I'm not feeling well, or I'm having back pain from the car accidents, or whatever it is, financial stress, I really try to not let it consume my whole day like it used to. I try to focus on the good things, get my mind off of it, and a really good mindset that I've kind of been able to established in my brain is if I can't fix it during this moment, then there's no point in stressing over it, and I'll cross that bridge when I get there. I'll do what I can and I'll do the best that I can, and that's all that I can really do. So I really think my mental wellness just had a lot to do with learning how to control my thoughts, learning how to turn negative thoughts into positives, or at least learning how to deal with it in a positive way. It didn't happen overnight. Working your brain is like working a muscle. You cannot do crunches today and expect to have abs tomorrow, as much as you want that to happen. And just like working a muscle, there's some days where you're gonna feel a little weaker, tired, and you're gonna have a slip. I'm not gonna be positive and happy all the time. Along with learning to think positive about life, I've learned to think positively about myself. I definitely realize now what I bring to the table. I know that I'm smart, I'm kind, I'm a good friend. You know, I have a lot of things to bring to the table in the relationships in my life, and that was really big for me. I feel strong again and healthier, and I think now, because I love myself so much and I'm happy with who I am as a whole, all of my relationships have been better. And yeah, this is probably the first time in about 3 years that I feel happy with my life as a whole. And I'm not saying that there weren't happy moments and nothing made me happy during the last 3 years, because of course so many things made me happy and I had happy moments, but this is the first time in my life that I'm really optimistic and happy about my life as a whole with everything. So yeah, that's kind of my story. And also, I want to leave a bunch of resources in the description. So if you are struggling and if you live in Winnipeg, I'm also going to search for ones outside of Winnipeg. I know there's some numbers that you can call from anywhere to speak to someone over the phone, but I'm going to list a bunch of resources that you can use if you're feeling overwhelmed. There's also some apps that kind of help with calming your mind and meditation and stuff like that. And I'm just happy to share my story finally, and I want you to know that there are definitely ways out to choosing to get the help that you need to get out of that situation, whether that's therapy, medication, both. There can be a happy ending. You just have to take control. But yeah, that is it for this video. Thank you so much for watching if you made it till the end. I love you guys so much, and make sure you subscribe.